We have the final Steelers injury report here before their Week 2 matchup versus the Cleveland Browns on Monday Night Football. And Colin Cowherd from Fox Sports has absolutely ripped the Pittsburgh Steelers yet again. Make sure you stick around to the end of today's video to see what Colin Cowherd had to say about the black and gold. But before we get into today's action here on Sunday, be honest with me down there in the comments section. How confident are you in a Steelers win this week versus the Cleveland Browns? They're at home. It's on prime time. They need a win this week after an embarrassing 30-7 loss in Week 1 at home versus the 49ers. Let me know how confident you're feeling down there in the comments. All right, now let's get into the injury report for the Pittsburgh Steelers here heading into Week 2. And, it's looking pretty optimistic here. Larry Ogunjobi, Chukwuma Okorafor, those guys have been dealing with injuries throughout the week. Chucks has been in concussion protocol. Both those guys are expected to play. James Daniels was also seen in a walking boot. He practiced in full on Saturday. He will most likely be playing as well. Pat Freiermuth had a chest injury, but he continued to play last week versus the 49ers, so that seems to be pretty minor. But the kind of surprising addition here was George Pickens, wide receiver, hamstring injury. Now let's talk about that for a little bit here, because obviously George Pickens is massively important to the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, especially now that Diontae Johnson is out with a hamstring issue himself. And the big question is, will this new hamstring issue affect GP's play here on Monday night? Because the Steelers are definitely going to need him as a deep threat to keep that Cleveland Browns defense that likes to play press, that likes to be very aggressive. George Pickens needs to be that number one wide receiver with Diontae Johnson out of the lineup. Allen Robinson and Calvin Austin III, of course, need to step up as well. But, man, Pickens has been expected to be that number one guy this year, even with Diontae Johnson on the field. So now that he's off the field, GP really needs to step it up here if the Steelers' passing game is going to find any level of success here with Johnson out of the lineup. And we really do need GP to be on his game on Monday night. I cannot stress that enough. Schwartz, the defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns, loves to be aggressive, loves to blitz, loves to play press man coverage. The way that you can kind of keep them honest is by beating them deep. And George Pickens is the best deep threat, at least in my opinion, on the Steelers roster right now. I expect Calvin Austin III to get some opportunities on deep shots as well in this one. But at the end of the day, man, George Pickens, if this hamstring issue is going to hamper his ability to get open down the field, it could spell some trouble here for the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 2 of this season. Now, predict it for me down in the comments section. Will George Pickens have a touchdown this week versus the Browns defense? Type TD if you think he's going to score a touchdown, or if you think he's going to go another week without a touchdown, type NTD for no touchdown. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. Take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. All right, and some other big news, okay, this time from the Cleveland sideline. Amari Cooper, wide receiver, is unlikely to play versus the Steelers on Monday Night Football with a groin injury that he re-aggravated in Saturday's practice. And listen, this is a very similar situation to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Amari Cooper is somebody that's extremely important to the Steelers, or to the Browns wide receiver room, just like George Pickens is at this point with Diontae Johnson out, because, with him out of the lineup, who do they really have? Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, I like him as a slot option, but none of those other wide receivers on their roster is a legit number one wide receiving threat. And Amari Cooper is by far the wide receiver I'm the most afraid of on the Browns roster right now. But of course, the priority number one, with or without Cooper on the field on Monday night, is going to be to limit the Browns run game led by Nick Chubb. They had 5.5 yards per carry versus the Cincinnati Bengals defense in Week 1. Of course, you don't have Cam Hayward in the lineup this week if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's going to be massively, massively important for the Steelers to stop the run game. And without the threat of Amari Cooper beating you deep, I expect a lot of loaded boxes for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially early on in this game. I expect to see a lot of Landon Roberts on the field. I expect to see a lot of Keanu Neal in the box, as well as a strong safety. It's going to be a lot of one high safety coverage for the Pittsburgh Steelers tomorrow. You guys better be ready for it. I think that this injury definitely gives the Steelers a better chance at limiting the Browns' run game here on Monday Night Football. Now, some other Browns that are questionable to play for tomorrow night. Juan Thornhill, a really good free safety for the Cleveland Browns. He is questionable with a calf injury. If he doesn't play, that's going to be really, really important for the Pittsburgh Steelers because that's going to mean a backup free safety is going to be in the middle of their defense, roaming center field, and that's going to allow you to take more shots down the field if Thornhill's out of the lineup. And then the Hawaiian Mountain himself, Siaki Ika, man, out of Baylor, defensive tackle, is dealing with a foot injury, did not practice throughout the week. He is questionable to play. Obviously, he's a great run stuffer. If he's not in the lineup for the Browns, that should allow Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren to get some good things going in the Steelers' run game. Now, there's a couple players for the Steelers that are out on Monday. We talked about the players that are going to be playing or expected to play. But, of course, we expected Diontae Johnson with that hamstring injury he suffered in Week 1 to not play. He will not be on the field this Monday night. And then also Anthony McFarland is a little bit more surprising. We didn't really know about his injury. He suffered a knee injury. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Steelers do in terms of that third running back spot moving forward. All right, so now coming up here, I'm going to tell you what Colin Cowherd had to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor at AG1. And I drink AG1 literally every day, and I love it. Get comprehensive and convenient daily nutrition at drinkag1.com/chatsports. I gave AG1 a try because I wanted more sustained energy throughout my day and wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. Now let's look at some of the daily use benefits of drinking AG1 every single day. It promotes your gut health, it supports your immunity so you get sick less often, and then also boosts your focus and energy so no matter how busy your schedule gets, you're going to be sharp, you're going to be ready to take on your day. I have AG1 in the morning and it makes me feel ready to take on my days. AG1 combines all of your key health products in one convenient and tasty beverage. In my line of work, guys, sometimes you have to put in those long hours, especially during football season. So AG1 helps me feel energized and sharp so I can be at my best no matter how busy my schedule gets. Covering my nutritional basis for the day literally couldn't be easier, which is why I trust AG1. I just mix one small scoop of AG1 with 12 ounces of water and drink it first thing each morning. Done, simple, easy. Don't got to worry about it for the rest of the day. I also like that it costs less than $3 a day, which is definitely less than the Starbucks you're drinking every single morning. It's a really effective daily habit with the highest quality source ingredients, which is a win-win for you and your health. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplemental routine, then AG1 is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/chatsports. That's drinkag1.com/chatsports. Check it out. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Now let's talk about Colin Cowherd, the Fox Sports host. He's been back and forth on the Pittsburgh Steelers throughout this offseason. One day he'll say, oh, this team's going to surprise a lot of people. Kenny Pickett's not that bad. And then the next day he's like, oh, this organization isn't doing things the right way. Well, this is what he had to say this week after the Steelers' Week 1 loss versus the 49ers. A defensive culture in an offensive league. Never great, but never terrible, and you pride yourself on loyalty and continuity. You sound like a well-run business without any upside. You're profitable, you're stable, it's a way to make a living. It's a restaurant that never changes its menu. There's no question Kenny Pickett is not Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, or Deshaun Watson. He's the 4th best quarterback in their division. Now, listen, Colin has changed his mind on the Pittsburgh Steelers at least 6 times this offseason, okay? 1 week, him and McIntyre will be talking about, oh, this team's going to the AFC Championship. Mike Tomlin's awesome. Kenny Pickett finished last season really good. And then the next week, 1 week where they get a 30-7 loss at home, and Colin immediately flips, and he's like, oh, this team's terrible. They never change their menu, all these different things that he says. And listen, part of this is right? There's a kernel of truth in what he says here. And where he's right here is that the Steelers need a new offensive coordinator. When he says that they don't change the menu, I completely agree with that when it comes to the offensive philosophy. Matt Canada is running an offense that would have maybe been successful 10, 15 years ago in the National Football League, but that's not the modern NFL. NFL defenses have figured out how to beat this style of offense, where it's lots of stop routes. It's very simple. It's very bland. It's very vanilla. Too many jet sweeps. Defenses know how to guard this type of offense nowadays. And you take a look at what the modern NFL is about offensively. It's about deep crossers. It's about flood concepts. It's about all these different things that the Shanahans of the world are doing, the Mike McDaniels of the world are doing. Matt Canada's not doing any of that because he's a freaking dinosaur. So I completely agree with Colin here that they need to bring in somebody that hasn't been in the building, somebody that's been in San Francisco's building, somebody that's been in the Dolphins building, that actually understands these new school concepts that are going around the NFL right now. Because plain simply, Mike Tomlin's circle, especially in the offensive realm, they're not innovators. They're not people that are pushing the envelope forward. And that needs to change here if the Steelers are going to become legitimate Super Bowl champions or contenders once again here in this league. But where Colin is wrong is that he seems to be criticizing the stable nature of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. Man, there's a reason why this team has not been under 500 in almost 2 decades, okay? That is an absolutely incredible feat to do that. Okay, so I completely agree that you need to innovate. You need to completely revolutionize, so to speak, that offensive culture here in Pittsburgh. But the defense is almost always excellent. Their head coach knows how to get the absolute most out of their players. And once he gets the right offensive coordinator and quarterback, I 100% believe that Mike Tomlin is the type of head coach that can once again bring this team to the promised land. I think that if those two things happen, he replaces Canada with another offensive coordinator that actually knows what he's doing, and he gets a quarterback, whether that's Kenny Pickett or somebody else, that's able to be a Super Bowl winner. I think that he's absolutely capable of bringing this team back to the promised land and get this team a 7th Super Bowl trophy. Now, what say you? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Will Coach Tomlin win another title with the Pittsburgh Steelers as their head coach? Give me a yes or give me a no. I want to see how you're feeling about Coach Tomlin and the culture that he has here in Pittsburgh. All right, that's going to be it for today's video. Guys, really do appreciate all of your support. If you want more Steelers content and news from me on Twitter or X, whatever you guys want to call it, go ahead and check me out on Twitter at Jack_Sperry. I do film deep dives every single week for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you want to learn more about the Steelers defense, their offense, more about football in general, go ahead and check me out on Twitter once again at Jack_Sperry. That'll be it for me today, guys. Really do appreciate all of your support. I will see you guys later. And as always, here we go, Steelers.